Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, and welcome to another episode of the Just Seen podcast. Um, Before I get started, I want to apologize for last week, the technical difficulties in the microphones. That was something I didn't anticipate. As I said, once it's recorded, like I want to still give the content out, and because there's still something viable in it, and you know, it it still had its permanent points and everything, and those moments can't be recaptured. So I just want to apologize for that. Um, Hopefully it doesn't happen again. We're back on point, and everything's gonna be moving forward. So with that being said, this week, I mean, it's kind of it's not related to each other, but today we're going to be talking about self-care and loving on you. Um, this is a topic that I feel like, for one, is important to discuss and deal with, but more importantly, I feel like it's a topic that people, I'm not gonna say misconstrue, but I'm gonna say they overemphasize it and they put too much icing on it, as in make it too peaches and creamy and shit, as opposed to what the reality is. Because I'm one who's big on, love being, outside of the scope of feelings and shit. Love is a power. As I discussed so many other times, love is a power. But the thing about love is that with love comes correction. So, um, in addition to self love comes with self correction. You feel what I'm saying? We've been we've been placed under this illusory premise that when I love myself, I accept. It's like the concept of self love is to take all of the things that, are detrimental to you. I'm not even going to say negative, because we need negative and positive in our lives to be equally balanced. But I'm going to say everything that's detrimental to us, you feel what I'm saying? That's what we've been conditioned to embrace and shit. And, just love that part of yourself, it's who you are. But then when it comes to the positive shit and us not fully embodying that, the things, not positivity, since I'm using detrimental, the things that are beneficial for us, if we're not operating, like, we'll soak in the detriment, but the things that are the benefit, if we're not soaking in that, then, we've been allowed ourselves to believe, okay, it's balance. It's balance. I'm in balance. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're imbalanced. If you spend more focus on what's detrimental for you and loving that, and then trying to be quote unquote humble when it comes to the things that are beneficial to you, or trying to be overly modest about the things that are beneficial to you, and you're not infusing and enhancing those. You feel what I'm saying? So that is, in my opinion, a lot of the times the delineation between love. And then when it comes to self-love, it's like the conceptualization of being humble keeps us from loving ourselves truly. And I say that because when we understand the word humble and the definition of the word humble, it means to make insignificant. It means to make less than, So I don't fuck with the word humble. I choose modesty. So many people will let us think, no, they're not. They're synonyms, but they're not the same definition. To be humble is to embarrass yourself, to make yourself less than, to be insignificant. That's why humble, humility, humiliation, they all derive from the same root. But somehow we want to be humble, but we don't want to be humiliated. It's stupid. It makes no sense. But my thing is, when it comes to self-love, when we embody that, our conscious mind may make whatever differentiations it wants to, but our unconscious mind understands what humble is, and it operates accordingly. So when we're trying to be humble, we don't necessarily want to accept the things that benefit our lives. So that comes within the self-love of ourselves, because like, nobody should be able to convince us that we're arrogant or that we're conceited about the things that are beneficial. But I see that I'm starting to get into the rabbit hole. So before I get started, first off, as always, follow me on Instagram at _just_seen_. Follow the podcast at the Just Seen Podcast. Follow the merchandise at Just Seen's Merch. And be sure to follow the plant-based transition class if you're trying to transition at the 90-day vegan course. Be sure to get my books, Hitting the Raw, Living the Raw, Plant-Based Lifestyle for Life, So Frail, A Reality to Black Male Masculinity, and So Frail to toxic femininity. Also, if you're trying to learn how to trade, to day trade and invest, my course is up and live. It is Mastering the Market, a comprehensive guide to Forex trading. Not only is it covering Forex trading, but it also covers investing for the long term as well, giving you the principles on how to use those interchangeably. And that can be found in the ad that you'll hear sometime down the podcast. Also, I do accept donations and tips, so you can find that in the link of the description to your podcast. PayPal or Cash App is fine. And I do accept support for the podcast expansion and growth. You can find that also in the links to the main website of my podcast hub. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to hop back into self-care, loving on you. Oh yeah, and don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the selfless series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the market for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So just take a quick peek into my world and see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it. You will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right, welcome back. All right, now I can go in. I saw myself drifting off, and I didn't want to do that without having the pause into the drama. You feel me? But when it comes to self-love and shit, it's like we kind of look at self-love from a perspective of, well, first off, we have to understand how we view love. All right. Do we view love from its true power of love? Do we view love from its expression of the feeling? Or have we internalized love as tolerance, and that's what we do for ourselves? And I say that because a lot of the upbringings that we have, and just a lot of the ways we have relationships, is that, you know, we equate love and tolerance. You feel me? Like we look at love through the lens of it being tolerance as opposed to love. And every relationship that we build on, that we think we're loving somebody, it's the level of tolerance that we can have for them, the level of tolerance that they can have for us, and how well we can balance. So when it comes to self-love, are we expressing self-love as a function of self-tolerance or self-love? And I say that because when it comes to seeing it as self-tolerance, a lot of us, we have what we deem are flaws, you know, like what we deem are the things that are problematic for us or the things that we can't do. So we have that self-tolerance, and then we'll end up punishing ourselves. When we can't tolerate ourselves, we punish ourselves. You feel what I'm saying? And, you know, when we say, okay, I'm trying to love myself, you got to make sure you're not just tolerating yourself, you know, because tolerance then connects to, you know, doing bare minimums or doing specific minimums in order to achieve certain things. But are we really loving ourselves? That's the truest question, you know, or do we tolerate ourselves? Because everybody's pushing it now. You know what I mean? Everybody's pushing it now, you know, love yourself, or you can't love nobody else, do this. But are we really in love with ourselves? Are we really loving ourselves? Or are we just tolerance? Are we tolerating ourselves and we just intolerance? Because like I look at the interactions that I've had with people. I even look at past interactions that I had with myself, to where, you know, I can be very hard on myself at times, even for other people to express this to me. They say, oh, you're hard on yourself. And that fine line is there for me, because where people see that I'm hard on myself, I'm learning that they're seeing it from a perspective of tolerance, master's love. So they're like, don't be so hard on yourself. But for my thing is, with love comes correction. So I'm not hard on myself, but I'm correcting fucked up behaviors. I'm correcting fucked up things that are fucked up situations. And the love comes in because after the correction is made, I don't have to go back to that. So I put that pressure on myself so I can come out the diamond on the other side. You feel what I'm saying? But tolerance, in my opinion, is more so, okay, this is the situation, but you know what? I'm just going to accept it and soak it. And I see so many people fall into that. You feel what I'm saying? I see so many people fall into that. And when they fall into that shit, it's more so they can easily get coerced and enveloped in energy that keeps them from progressing in life. You feel what I'm saying? Energy that keeps them from progressing in life. And so when it comes to self-love, the actualization is that love isn't always good. Like not in the sense, okay, I'm not gonna say good. Love isn't always positive. I gotta make sure I use specific words. Love isn't always gonna be a positive thing. It's always going to emerge good at the end of the day, but it's not going to always be a positive thing. And that's because you have to correct certain behaviors. If you truly love yourself and you truly love anything, that correction has to happen to where you're giving that guidance, or you're giving that alteration to what detriment is causing you, to make it be beneficial for you. You feel what I'm saying? That's how I look at self-love. That's how I like to look at it, you know? And so, like I said, when people experience me, they're like, yo, you're so hard on yourself. You're so this. But when they see the others, at the same time, they admire my light. You feel what I'm saying? But it's like, I'm not hard on myself. I'm basing my corrections off of the standard that I have to have in order to create whatever it is that is being detrimental to me right now, a benefit. You feel what I'm saying? I'm going to be extra disciplined with myself when I'm feeling lazy. You dig what I mean? I'm going to be extra stringent upon myself when I need to manifest some shit and bring it into this world. That I don't feel like that's being hard on myself, because at the end of the day, the outcome, correcting that outcome creates the longevity for the long run. I don't have to go back to it once it's corrected. And I think that's what the confusion is between love and tolerance, because, you know, a lot of people think that I attack myself. Because I've seen people attack themselves when they're, you know, expressing certain, because they experience love through a tolerance lens. And when they're doing things that they can't even tolerate within themselves, that's how that manifests itself out. You feel what I'm saying? So understanding self-love from its real perspective as a power, and then knowing that love comes with correction, and not from the experience that love is tolerance. You know, it changes our scope on how we love ourselves within, which then, changes the scope and goes into what we're talking about with self-care. You know, because here's another thing that I personally feel is like a misconception. We misinterpret care as caution. You know, we misinterpret care as caution. So when we're like, yo, I'm going to be like, we step into realms of paranoia. We step into realms of extreme caution. You know, we live life like self-care is not walking on eggshells. Now, granted, self-care in those moments of, you know, you have your mental health days. Sometimes I'm just not going to work, or sometimes I don't feel like doing this. Yes, that's self-care, you know, in that physical regard. But then you still have the care for the mental, and you have the care for the spiritual. But we got to understand that being careful and being cautious are synonymous things, but in regards to when it's coming to yourself, you don't necessarily want to be self-cautious, because that puts you in a fearful state. Self-care is not only doing the things that, and that's why I said with love comes correction, because with self-care, it's taking the time to find the things that, find and correct the things that are being detrimental to you. So yeah, a spa day, cool, self-care. You're relaxing, you're getting your nerves straight. A day off from work, nature, grounding, different things like that. Those are forms of self-care. But now we got to get into the uprootment and the dark side of self-care. The side that says, okay, here's things that help with my benefit, but how do I deal with the things how do I erase the detriment? That's a form of self-care too. You know, that's a form of self-care too. In my opinion, I feel like that is the form of self-care, because that is more healing, as those self-care moments that we have where we're just, you know, sustaining the benefit are more like Band-Aids. They're more like Band-Aids. You know what I mean? You need them. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying and think I'm just, you know, nah, go in and do the work. I hear that shit so fucking much, man. That shit's getting on my nerves now too. Like, Do the work, do the work. What work do you have to do? That's the thing. Like everybody's telling everybody else to do the work, but it's like in that light, how many people are actively doing the work to be able to tell people, yo, here's the work you have to do. I can tell you all day long, go deal with your demons. I can tell you all day long that you need to get over these trust issues. You need to let go of the fuck boy that did this to you. You got to let go of the bum bitch that did that to you. And I'm not speaking in negatives because we're vibing. You feel what I'm saying? I can tell you all of these things. You feel me? And I could tell you to, meditate, do all of that shit. But at the end of the day, self-care is a healing tactic. And going in is the conjunction. Going in and doing the work is self-care. Now, again, this isn't pacification. You know what I mean? This isn't suppressing what you feel. Self-care is going in and seeing, okay, these things bring detriment to me, so now I have to erase the detriment. Not just, you know what, let me find the things that give me benefit and over-medicate on those. Because that shit's going to come back. Because self-care and erasing the detriment helps build your spiritual stamina. You feel what I'm saying? It helps build your spiritual stamina. And our self-care needs to be in conjunction with the beneficial shit, but facing the detrimental shit. Because there's things that, we've internalized as, yo, this is just who I am. Okay. That's just who you are. So you rather embrace the things that bring you detriment as opposed to fixing them. You know what I'm saying? I dated this woman who, bad attitude. And she was just like, yo, this is just how I am. Either you're going to have to deal with it or you're not. In the time, again, I didn't really know the difference between love and tolerance. But everything was love. You know what I mean? Even the tolerance goes like, is your attitude bad enough for me to walk away from you? I don't think so. It really was. Her attitude was fucked up and I shouldn't have been involved in it, because when you like the relationships go like the shit they do to other motherfuckers, they eventually start doing to you. So while you seeing it done to another motherfucker, you don't really pay attention to it until it comes to you. And then you're like, damn, this is problematic. You dig what I'm saying? But it was like, she was like, this is just the way I am, this, and I'm not changing anything you said. And it was like, damn. In hindsight, when I look back at it, it was like, yeah, she just told you. She basically told you what level of tolerance you had to have in order to be with her. But again, I'm internalizing that as love. So it's like, all right, well, when you love, you tolerate, you should be able to hold that and extend the tolerance and, deal with it. And then it's like, it got worse, because give an inch, take a mile. You feel what I'm saying? But a lot of us do that shit in relationships and then do that shit with ourselves. So it's like, we've internalized the very things that are detrimental to us, but they're within bounds and within the reasons of tolerance. You feel me? So what is your tolerance threshold for what you feel for yourself? Because now you have to internalize that. If I'm not loving myself, that means I'm just tolerating myself. Right? And that's where that never ending story comes in. That's where that being on the hamster wheel shit comes in, because now you're running a race. You're continually running a race and you're never fixing. You're never changing. You're never healing. You never, you're bandaging everything up. But you're like, at what point does the pain come in? Or at what point does the detriment cause? At what point is a detrimental part of myself causing detriment to the world? That's when we start to pay attention to, I need to look at me. But if, let's say we're in a group of motherfuckers who are all operating from the same shit. You got a group of yes people. Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You know what I mean? Case in point, I was in, when I talk about that relationship, it was like, when I told people about it, it was like, yo, men, y'all you can't let that get to you. Because as a man, you know what I'm saying, whether her emotions or whatever it is, you still a man at the end of the day. No, that's not good for your mental health. That's not good for your spiritual health to be involved with somebody like that. You feel what I'm saying? But then when you have those women or those men, I'm not even just like, when you have those relationships with people who are toxic, and the people around them make concessions for their behavior, what happens is they don't think it's wrong. Oh, you just got to love me for this. You just got to love me through all of this. And, you know, and if you don't understand what love is, and the love that you express is really tolerance, you're going to tolerate that. And you're going to assume I got to tolerate that shit. You feel me? So now we shift that back, because I don't want to lose focus, because we're on self-care today, you know, but I'm showing how it's easy to do for ourselves, because now it segues into the biggest point of all of this: selfish versus selfless. We're taught not to be selfish. Selfish has become such a bad thing. Selfish has become such a horrible thing to be in this world. And it's not. Selfish is one of the best things you can be, because when you know how you could fuck with you, you know who you should be fucking with. You feel what I'm saying? But then, so now we couple in with the tolerance thing, and then we run in with being a selfless person. A selfless person who loves through tolerance never has boundaries. You dig what I'm saying? You will never put boundaries on your shit because you have no reason to, because you've been convinced by these two conceptualizations of being selfless and love being tolerance, without you knowing that love is tolerance. You feel what I'm saying? You now create a realm for yourself where you don't have boundaries, right? And the reason why that's important is because, when we look at boundaries from the outside, you put boundaries up for people. You feel me? But the boundaries that we set up for people are different than the ones that we set up for ourselves. The boundaries that we set up for ourselves are discipline. I gave that a moment of silence, I know. But discipline is the boundary that we set for ourselves to avoid detrimental shit. Boundaries are the things we set for other motherfuckers to keep them from fucking with our shit. But when you've been a selfless person and you're loving through tolerance, and your idea of love is really a masquerading piece of tolerance, when you start to internalize self-love and you have already been living and created your entire psyche, for the most part, and personality off of these two conceptualizations, that I have to be selfless, right? You can't. Why would you want to love yourself if you're selfless? Okay. And then your love is through tolerance. You have that point where you cannot be disciplined with yourself. Because now go like self-care. Now we now tie it back in, because, self-care as a derivative of self-love, you still got to be able to be willing to correct yourself, and you correct yourself with discipline. But we always extend that shit. And then we extend that shit so much that we say stupid shit like, oh, well, you just got to have balance. It's balance. Balance, that is like, I'm going to use that because, I guess most of us is woke, quote unquote, but then I'm going to use it from the other perspective too. We say balance to absolve ourselves from accountability and responsibility for handling our shit. Oh, well, it's just balance. You feel what I'm saying? It's just balance. Then you got the other side where people say the devil was busy. You feel what I'm saying? It's, no, it's not. It's not okay. And that's not the thing, because now that takes you from being within yourself. That takes you from going within. So then when you meet a disciplined person, this is funny as shit. When I was in undergrad, I got like not every woman, but a lot of the relationships that I was with. And because I was very selfless and I was doing the love through tolerance thing, I would involve myself with women who didn't love themselves. And a lot of times when I say that, people think that I'm just saying that they don't care for themselves and they don't value themselves. No, sometimes love is lacking. Sometimes not loving yourself is lacking the ability to correct yourself, which then goes now into discipline. So now I'm dealing with women who will call me a robot because I said, okay, I got a schedule, I got to stick to this, and I didn't deviate from that shit. Oh, you're a robot, you're this, you need to live. I live, but I handle my business first. And I've always been that way. So, but in that time, I internalized that shit. And then I went from being the person who was disciplined. And then the funny thing about it is when I stopped being disciplined and I started, living a little, as they say, oh, you're changing. You're not the same. It's like, so People gonna fuck with you and they're gonna do all kind of shit anyway. You feel me? And they're gonna have everything to say because it's based off of tolerance and all of the other shit. But you as yourself need to operate from that perspective. So now, when it comes into the self-care part of that, those are points that are detrimental to you. You know, that was an aspect of me that was actually beneficial. Me being disciplined, me being structured, you know, me being calculated and all of the shit that I do. That was a benefit. But the benefits within you will not be shown to a person who does not value those as benefits. But if you have not done the self-care to find that, to be able to love yourself correctly, you feel what I'm saying? Everybody's going to be able to dictate what you find beneficial. And that could be to your detriment. You feel me? That could be to your detriment. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when it comes into the self-love, tolerance, all of that conundrum that's there, you know, you have to ask yourself, are you selfless or selfish? If you're selfless, how are you going to if you're selfless, how are you going to internalize self-love? If you feel guilty for being selfish, how can you love yourself? How can you internalize that it's okay for me to do that? Because, like I said, now we're getting into the detriments and the benefits. This shit be detrimental to you. But when you're selfless, you don't give a fuck how detrimental it is. Oh, this person, I'm making this person feel good. I'm giving you a safe place. No, fuck that. Look, let me explain something to you. Everybody that I fuck with, you get a safe place. Everybody that I engage with, I converse with, whatever the case may be, you get that safe space to vent and everything, but it's not going to be in detriment to me. You feel what I'm saying? When I feel like, okay, this ain't for me. You feel what I'm saying? This ain't got shit to do with me. It don't. Like, one of the most powerful phrases you can ever tell a motherfucker, but it's so hurtful to a person based off of the conceptualizations of being selfless and selfish is, I don't give a fuck. You know, I'll take it down a notch. I'll take it off of a 10 and bring it down to a 7. I do not care. You know, then I'll raise it back up to an 8 and say, that's not my problem. These things are all perfectly fine to say. They're all perfectly fine to say but we've been so warped into this shit that it's like, okay, here's what you can bring to me and here's my threshold and what I can tolerate because I love you. That's not love. That's not love. I literally I got cut off by a friend. Well, at this point, we're not friends, but the person was, you know, I guess going through something. It was like, yo, I need to talk. Okay. I need to let you know, though, that, you know, I charge people now. You feel what I'm saying? I charge people now. Oh, you're not my friend anymore because you seen that I'm going, like, you're not a friend. That's not a friend because you seen that I was going. I said, look, I just bought my new phone. I got a new phone last June, right? This is the first time you and I have had a thread in this phone. I'm not the friend, though. And our first conversation is how you need to vent to me and how you need to tell about what, like, you begin the conversation by saying, are you in a good mental space to hear what's going on with me? Yeah, send me my check. You feel me? Send me my money. And that goes into my self-love. That goes into my self-care. Because I'm not about to allow, like, you know, it's something that I've learned. You know, when people pay, they pay attention. You feel what I'm saying? And in the time in which I was doing all of that shit for free, you know, I'm like, yo, you would go pay a therapist, but yet because now you had like y'all, I would spend X amount of hours on conversations with people for them to say, yo, I feel so light after this conversation. You just throw this, that, and the third, and you know, I appreciate you. Okay, appreciation only gets you so far when you keep dumping your shit on me. You feel me? So I put that up. That was my self-care. That was my love. That was me being selfish. Because when I'm being selfless, motherfuckers don't stop. But then all of a sudden, like I said, I lost a friend. I said, okay, you weren't the friend. You know? And then they put out in the conversation, they said, well, I always opened the door for you to vent, but you just never came to me. You're right, I didn't. Because there's other factors in there too as to why I didn't tell you my shit. You feel what I'm saying? I knew your friend's shit, but I didn't know your friends. You're not gonna know my shit, bro. Like, kill that. You feel me? But at the end of the day, how it came back to it was that in that regard, it's like you have to be able to, like, that goes into the tolerance point of, you have to be able to tolerate me through whether something brings you detriment or not. And now it's like, no, I reevaluated that shit. My self-care brought me to looking inside to develop my self-love, to say, you know what, my self-care says what's detrimental for me. You know, I'm a businessman, and my shit functions on, you know, when I like every minute, every hour of my day is spent towards something, whether I'm trading, whether I'm podcasting, whether I'm teaching and giving tutoring off of some of my courses. Like, it's, so when I step away from that shit, technically I'm losing money. You feel what I'm saying? I'm losing money. And if I tell you to compensate for the time that I'm removing from something, like, come on, don't get disrespectful, yo. Don't get disrespectful. But that was something I had to learn how to do. You feel me? That was something I had to learn how to do. And I had to go into the self-care and realize that it's not just about a spa. It's not about go getting a massage. You know, yo, I need my scalp massage. I need, you know, I got to get these knots out my back. You know, it's not just about that shit. It's about saying, what the fuck is causing these knots? What the fuck is actually bringing me this disharmony within myself? That's a part of self-care, figuring that shit out and snipping it. You know what I'm saying? Self-care, and sometimes self-care can hurt. The self-care time can hurt, taking those times to yourself. You know, in my lifetime, I had several emotional not emotional, but I had like 2 emotional breakdowns too. But in my life, I had several mental breakdowns. Because in those selfless moments, in that tolerance and all of that shit, you just go and go and go and go and go. You don't never reach a point where you say, you know what? I'm exhausted, for real. I'm exhausted. I always want to be available for people. I always want to be here. I always want to be able to do these certain things. Like, we ourselves, we have those things that, because we're naturally good at them, or because maybe there are gifts in this world, we necessarily don't get tired at it. But then when we do, it's like we still extend it, because it's like, yo, this is what I'm good at. This is just natural for me, blah, blah, blah. And we do that shit, and then we violate our own self-love. You know? And as opposed to self-care, that's self-mishandling. You know, you're mishandling yourself when you put yourself in these situations. And so that battle between, am I selfless or am I selfish? I want to be a very selfless person. Fuck them people, yo. And I don't mean like disrespectfully fuck them people, but I mean in the sense that if it's disrupting your peace, if it's bringing chaos to your circle, if it's bringing chaos to your inner being, fuck it. Let that shit go. You feel me? But that comes with the self-love, because you're not going to put tolerance and you know, like, your boundaries come in. It's like, yo, here's what you're not going to do. And here's the line. Here's the line. You feel me? And lock it in on that. Lock it in on that. You know what I'm saying? And so that goes into other realms and other dynamics of what we have to do. Because when we're selfless, when we've operated from selfless and we've never been able to be selfish, when it's time to be selfish, we now fall into hermit mode. Because when it's time to do self-love and self-care and take care of your shit, that inner work, the work that everybody keeps saying doing, when you got to go in, you're going to be alone. And when you're selfless versus selfish, that battle is going to be hard as fuck, because the battle that you're going to be dealing with is, am I alone or am I lonely? When you're lonely, it's hard to hell. It's hard as fuck to do your self-work. It's hard as fuck to have self-care. It's hard as fuck to develop that self-love when you're lonely. And lonely comes as a derivative of being selfless, because you're doing for people. You're doing so much for people, and you get that invigoration of just being around them. You know, that intoxication from, and that euphoria from helping people. You know, and then you've extended a thank you. We do the shit for it. Thank you. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to reality, you should be compensated for everything. Like, there's literally a law of compensation. The law of compensation. To compensate means that you give a just due for the service or for whatever it is that was given out. and you receive a just due. That was honestly and true. That was one of my biggest problems. I violate the law of compensation so much the shit burned me out. All right. Look. The markets are not a difficult place to understand. All right. You just have to know what you're looking at. And there's 5 things that you need to see before you can make any market entry. First, you need a pocket so you can know which direction the market is going in. Second, you need a pullback so you can get the better price. Third, you need a battlefield so you can see when that market movement is slowing down. Fourth, you need the upper hand so you can see when the market reactivates. And last, you need a final push so you can see the exact moment when it's time to go with the direction you are already moving in. Okay? Of course, there's so much more that has to go into that, and it's not as cut and dry as that. But those are things that I teach in my Mastering the Market course. So if you would like to learn more, please visit IamJustSing.com and check out the Mastering the Market course today. Although it is directed and specialized for Forex, all of the skills, I crafted them to be transferable to any market that you're looking at. So again, visit IamJustSing.com and check out the Mastering the Market course today if you are truly looking to master the market. Oh yeah, and don't forget, while I still got you, you can use promo code QUARANTINE to save over 90% off of the enrollment of the full price of the course. That is QUARANTINE, QUARANTEEN. Because I was giving and I was available to people who could not give or be available the way that I needed them to. And that's another particular point. You feel what I'm saying? But that comes into the point that I'm making with being selfless, leading to you being lonely when you have to go in and do your inner work. When you have to go in and have your self-care that is going to lead you to your self-love, ultimately. That's going to show you the things you need to correct and you need to change within yourself. Because when you're selfless, you get your validation out of, I helped this person. They said, thank you. I did this for this person. And, I didn't even put a boundary up. I never stopped. I just let them do whatever. You feel what I'm saying? So now we go back into why it's hard, because now when you're alone, it requires discipline. That inner work, that self-work, that shit requires discipline. And what is discipline other than a boundary you set for yourself? You feel what I'm saying? I hope you're walking with me. I hope you're walking with me on this one. You feel me? So it's like, why is it so difficult to master the self and deal with that? Is because we can't be selfish. We think selfish is being bad. Fuck no. Selfish is good as hell. Selfish has a moments. Even if you're going to be balanced, you have to have those moments where I'm selfish and I'm selfless. Even. I'm going to give myself abundantly to people, and then I'm going to keep myself from everybody, as a whole. Fuck y'all. I mean this, and I mean this with the utmost respect. And I want you to exhibit this with the utmost respect too. If you live this, have your fuck y'all moments. Like for real. Friends, family, it don't matter. Have moments where you're like, yo, fuck y'all. I don't need to be around y'all right now. Like, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine, And the reason why I'm calling them fuck y'all moments is because there comes a time when we built up so much that it hits us that way. We don't have to respond that way. But when you're selfless, and people just keep taking, what's going to happen? You're going to snap, man. Fuck y'all. And that's how it's going to come out. And then it's going to be, oh, this is disrespectful. You're wrong. You're that. You're this. You're that. You're not a friend. You're not this. Like, nah. I have my selfish moments to where when it comes to, like, you know what? When you get to practicing that and you have the self-care and you put in the self-love and all of the inner work that you need to in your alone time, you don't get to a point where it's like, yo, fuck y'all. You get to those where you can express it right. I'd rather not. I don't think that's for me. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like, don't let that shit get pent up in you. Don't let that shit get stored deep within you, because in your self-care, all you're doing is putting Band-Aids on. And you're doing only the shit that feeds the benefit, but doesn't erase the detriment. You feel what I'm saying? Because like I said, it goes back into like, once you become selfish and you have that inner work and you start to be alone versus lonely, you don't seek the outer influence. Like when you're lonely as fuck, that time that shit kicks in and you just want to be around people. You want to, you want people to give you, you want people to give you the positive energy. You want people to, keep your energy up. And that's why you get lonely. Lonely is a state of feeling. Alone is a state of being. If you can't be alone, like your relationship's going to suffer because if you can be lonely, your relationships are going to be very parasitic, for lack of a better term. They're going to be very parasitic because everything is going to be contingent upon you not feeling lonely. And then when you're not trying to be lonely, when you're not trying to feel lonely, what happens? You extend the boundary of being selfless. You're able to operate more you're able to tolerate more things that'll keep you from being lonely. That selflessness, it increases because you don't want to be lonely. You feel what I'm saying? But when you master to be alone, you don't give a fuck if a motherfucker come and go. Not in the sense that, you're going to be old and lonely with some cats and shit. I ain't on that type time because I'm very big on having relationships with people and being engaged with people, but they need to be fruitful. They need to be fruitful. You need to be in a relationship that, in any relationship, friendship, whatever, where you can still stand alone. And that comes with the self-love. That comes from the self-care that it takes to actually step into that realm. Step into that space and step into that energy. You feel what I'm saying? So we battle this alone versus lonely quandary all day long. And a lot of times, a lot of us won't do that self-work because we can't get over the fact that we're lonely. And we can't shift it to being alone. Because when we're by ourselves and shit, we're not comfortable. Your thoughts get louder when you're alone. Your thoughts get more defined when you're alone. But how you deal with them is what happens. Like a lot of us, we succumb to the lonely feeling. And as opposed to doing the work and dealing with the shit, we'll say, you know what, fuck it. Let me go have a good time with somebody. Let me go. I just need to get out. I just need to do this. No, sometimes you need to stay your ass in. That's why you're dealing with the shit that you're dealing with. And that's a part of self-care. Self-care is also dealing with the shit you don't want to deal with. You feel me? But again, it requires you putting boundaries on yourself, which is discipline. That's one of the hardest things to do because the moment, I say it like this, the moment you learn to be disciplined within yourself, putting boundaries to other motherfuckers, that shit becomes a breeze. That shit becomes a breeze. If there's things that you're not going to stop, like whenever I get disciplined, like my relationships start to suffer when I rediscipline myself. Like women meet me and then like we be vibing and shit. But again, this comes from, I guess, self-care that they gotta work on. Cause I say it's self-care they gotta work on and shit because it's like what you like a person for, if you end up disliking them for it, that's something internal that you have to deal with. Like what I like you for, I'm eventually stop liking you for. Why? Because it's something that I can't get through. You feel me? That's an unchanging thing that I can't get through. So my discipline was one thing that's very attractive to women, but it's very also repulsive as things go on. Because like, what about my time? What about your time? Your time is in your hands. Like, what do you mean? You feel what I'm saying? I get that, you still got to give your woman this, that, and the third. Okay, cool. I respect that 100%. But when you come to the table and I tell you what I'm doing and I tell you, look, this is how it has to be for this particular time frame. And you say, okay, it's okay. That's what it should be. It should be okay. But that's not the case. So the discipline part is like, it can't be broken. And when it comes to that selfless part, everybody gives it so much that they think they're entitled to it. You're not. You're not entitled for anybody to be selfless to you. That's another moment of silence I had to give for that one because we feel like, we follow these cliches and shit, treat others how you want to be treated. You feel me? People are going to give you what you give them. No. See, in that mentality of treating others the way you want to be treated, we become selfless. So we feel entitled. If I'm selfless to you, damn it, you should be selfless to me. No, you're selfless to me and you're selfless to me. That ain't got shit to do with me. That ain't got shit to do with me. You feel what I'm saying? I know that sounds so fucked up and that sounds so wrong. Do I do my relationships like that? Not in that regard. I still give, but I'm not going to give. I've learned not to give you more than I'm willing to give myself. And that's where the problem comes in. So many people in that selfless mentality, they give more of themselves than they are willing. They give more of themselves than they're supposed to. And therefore they want all of the other person. I ain't tell you to give all of you. You made the choice to do that. But you made the choice based off of the conditioning that this is what you thought love was. I extend my tolerance, and my tolerance means that I put no boundaries on myself, and I become 100% selfless. I give you everything. I give you everything, every part of me, and then you drain me, and then you take it. Why do you think? See, the universe has been teaching us, universe, God, Allah, Jehovah, Yeshua, Krishna, Buddha, whatever you're calling it. It's been showing us for the longest that we need to put boundaries on our shit. We just don't listen. Givers get in relationships with takers. Givers get into relationships with takers, and takers never stop taking. You feel what I'm saying? Takers never stop taking. And I know it's like, well, how come takers are punished too? I'm gonna put in that's another, and that's the other extreme of, being selfless in what you receive. So we got to think like takers get a bad rap because takers, okay, they take everything from givers. Givers give everything to takers, and takers are ones who receive everything. So here's where the battle comes in, where the universe teaches you there's some shit you take and there's some shit you don't take. There's some shit you give and there's some shit you don't give. Givers feel like they're the victims. They're most of the victims, right? Because like I give, and this person just took. Okay, cool. The universe put that person in your life to say, stop giving so motherfucking much. You just give frivolously. And then you give and give to a person who takes and takes, right? No, you give and then you wait for your reciprocity. You wait for the shit to be reciprocated. See, that's a problem. A lot of us just give and give, and we don't expect anything back. We don't feel like we should get anything back until we're depleted. You feel me? Accountability piece right there. You got to stop giving under the premise that I'm going to give. But then when I need, no, that shit I got to know that it's 1-to-1. For the most part, I got to know that it's 1-to-1. I'm not going to keep giving to you and giving you all of myself and you're not giving back. But that violates your self-love. You got to stop loving motherfuckers more than you love yourself. You got to, because otherwise you become selfless and then you just give. There's no boundary to what you give. Therefore, you're going to meet people with no boundary to what they take. And off the coin flip to that, when we look at the takers from the other side, because there's people that are just supposed to receive shit. And that's necessarily not a bad thing. Because then you're like, okay, one the biggest example of a receiver, of a taker who just takes on people's shit is, the quote unquote empaths. You feel what I'm saying? Empaths are takers. Contrary to what we want to believe, empaths are takers by definition. We take on everybody's shit. I've reached the point in my life where I came to this reality about 3.5 years ago. I never forget it because I just let somebody just vent and talk. And it was just like shit was just so depleting and draining. And I said, you know what? I got to be an apathetic empath. And since that moment, I've been an apathetic empath. People be asking me, they be like, well, how do you not get drained by the shit? Because I make myself apathetic to your shit. I'm still an empath. I'm still going to do what I have to do as that natural energetic force that I am. But I'm apathetic to your shit now. I don't give a fuck no more. Like, you can vent all your shit to me. I can help you solve the problem and do whatever it is, but I do not give a fuck about it. I am apathetic to the situation because it is not mine. So now I'm back to the takers part. So empaths are takers and don't even realize it. Because we think because we're giving our time to people, no, you're taking their energy. And you're taking their negative energy. So that's where the universe is putting in, there's takers too. You motherfuckers just can't take everything. Because motherfuckers are going to give it to you and give it to you and give it to you and give it to you. So we be thinking takers are always the bad ones and not the givers. Nah, the givers are just as fucked up too. And that's what the universe puts into your reality. From a physical perspective, people who have unprotected sex with people they randomly trust and shit, like, you a taker. You a taker. And you be taking on the wrong shit. Then you get burnt, you get AIDS, you get whatever else that you get. And you didn't put boundaries on your shit. In this particular case, it was contraceptive. But, I just want to give both perspectives because a lot of times we talk about the selfless point. We always think about a giver. We always think about a giver. And then people are just takers. People are just wrong. Takers are takers, takers, takers. Some of us are takers too. And we're good takers. But we take on wrong shit. Wrong shit. And some people will, knowing, and then see, and that's another point to it. A lot of us be thinking, oh, I'm a healer. I'm an empath. No, by definition, you're a taker. People just come to me and they just, yes, because you're a taker. You're an energetic taker. The universe bestowed that power upon you. Now it's on you to discipline yourself, and it's on you to put the boundaries around your shit to say, I can't take everything. You feel me? And if I am going to take everything, there's got to be some kind of, there has to be something to honor the law of compensation. Other than some bullshit. But people don't get that. They don't want to respect that because they think the taker is wrong all the time. So nobody wants to be a taker. And everybody just wants to be a giver until it's the negative giver too. Like them motherfuckers are fucked up too. They just put a whole bunch of shit on you. You feel what I'm saying? This is shit I had to learn. I'm a taker. I'm not even going to lie. Like I'm a natural taker. I take on people's shit. Well, I used to. I used to. You feel me? People can call me. We can have hour-long conversations, and I never understood why, because energetically I'm a taker. As an empath, I'm a taker. Right? Nobody wants to discuss that part of it. Everybody wants to be the light worker. I don't want to be an empath. I'm an empath. I'm a healer. No, you're not. You're a taker. You're a taker. Now it's how you transmute that to determine whether you're a healer or not. But by definition, as an empath, you are a taker. You take on people's energy. You take on people's shit. And then it's time for you to go into your self-care, your self-work, and put boundaries around the shit that you're going to allow because you have to discipline yourself. You feel what I'm saying? This shit this loving on you some deep shit. Because it's not always hugs and roses and shit. Sometimes it's being stern and upfront. Saying, bitch, run me my money. Whether that be the dollar, the physical dollar, or that energetic compensation. Run me my coin. You feel me? Give me my bag. Like, you feel me? Start putting that shit on people. You feel what I'm saying? Every relationship. See, something that I've learned is that every relationship needs a compensation. Like, we love talk about reciprocity, but we never talk about compensation. You need to be compensated for every relationship that you're in. Right? But we can't be because we don't know how to love right. We know how to love through tolerance. So that means that when it comes to our self-love, we don't tolerate ourselves and we don't put that energy within ourselves. So we never put the boundary up to say, hey, you've exhausted, like, this is your tab. Pay me. You feel me? Pay me. Physical compensation doesn't always work. The actual dollar and fiscally, the financial compensation doesn't always work. But at the same time, you need some kind of compensation beyond reciprocity. You feel me? I go back to the person who said we wasn't friends anymore. And they were like, well, I offered that if you had something you want to talk about, that's not tit for tat. I can't, like, that's not conversation. That's reciprocity, but that's not conversation. Because if I'm giving you advice, healing you through your shit, there's no way that you can heal me through mine. Not on any funny shit, but you're the weaker vessel. All you can do is listen. All you can do is listen. I don't like that's not the case. You feel what I'm saying? If you cannot give me back what I give you, that's just reciprocity. You feel what I'm saying? And reciprocity, like I said, so reciprocity is, and that's what we talk about in relationships. It's tit for tat. I can't but perfect example. Reciprocity will be quantity. Right? Compensation is quality. You feel what I'm saying? Reciprocity is, I gave you, like, the value is different. Just because I can listen to you, do I come out how you come out with me? When I come out of situations, like, and I've experienced this. When I've spoken with people, they be like, yo, I feel so light. I feel so clear. Like, how the fuck do you do that shit? I go and talk to them. I still feel the same way I felt when I first started talking to them. because the compensation is different. They can't compensate the way that I can because that's not their shit. You feel what I'm saying? So you got to be compensated at the shit. But all of that comes into the full gamut of the self-love, of the self-care, of the becoming selfish and finding the balance between when to stop being selfless and start being selfish, and vice versa. When to know that every giver isn't good and every taker isn't bad. You feel what I'm saying? Know when to, okay, I need to be alone without being lonely. Like, self-care is always going to be difficult when you fall into that bracket of not being able to be alone because you're lonely. Self-care will always be hard after that. There's no way around it. This is both experience within myself and experience from dealing with other people. You feel what I'm saying? If as soon as you by yourself, you just, I need somebody here with me. I need to do this. Like, you're lonely. Your self-care is going to be hard to start. Because again, like I said, it requires discipline. Discipline requires you to put boundaries on yourself. Like, we're not taught to put boundaries upon ourselves. Like I said, because of the word that's associated with it, discipline. That's an ugly word. You feel me? And I think it's ugly to us because we've been like, discipline has been associated with punishment. It's been associated with whoopings. So that association with, okay, discipline yourself. Damn, I don't want to do that. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not whooping myself. I'm not putting myself on punishment. I'm not like, no, discipline is deeper than that. Discipline is when you put the boundaries on your own bullshit. Put the boundaries on yourself to protect you from your bullshit. I like that one better. Discipline is putting the boundaries on yourself to protect you from your own bullshit. You feel me? But it takes self-care to get to that point, because you have to realize that I have to remove the detriment from myself. That's what self-care is. It's not always about, I just got to embrace the benefit. You feel what I'm saying? And that to do that, you need to become selfish to do some shit like that. Not selfless. Selfless people are not going to put the boundaries on themselves. Selfish people are, because they're going to start to value they're going to value themselves more. You spend time by valuing yourself more. We can, as fucked up human beings as they are, narcissists got this shit down to a T. I'm not saying be narcissistic in any way, shape, or form. I'm not absolving their bullshit. But a narcissistic motherfucker is selfish as fuck, and they will not break for their shit. They keep them motherfucking boundaries around themselves. They will fuck you all the way over, but you will not break into their shit to fuck them over. I've learned through life to learn to see a lesson in everything. And I'm good at seeing certain particular things. And a narcissist, that is a positive quality of a narcissist. You will not penetrate their fortress, goddamn. They will be selfish as fuck, and you will not violate their boundaries. They'll violate and stomp all over yours. And we wonder why this happens. Now let's bring it back full circle, how the universe puts you to where you need to tighten the fuck up. It's always a selfless motherfucker getting with a narcissistic motherfucker and then saying, I'm so drained. Don't get so wrapped up in the emotion and the damage that happened, but figure out, how the fuck did I get hurt? I just gave and gave and gave and gave to a negative taker, to a person who took and took and took and took and took. Right? That's not like, and narcissists aren't always takers. You have narcissistic givers too. It's different. Because then when you have the taker who just takes on everybody's shit, the narcissist ain't got, again, they're not going to take on your shit, but they're going to give you all of their shit. You feel me? And they're going to give you all of their negative shit. And then like, yo, you ain't have to listen. You ain't have to take it. You chose. And they would be absolutely fucking right. As fucked up and as damaging as those types of people are, they have a fucking point. They have a fucking point. And that when it comes to loving yourself, you'll be able to identify that point. Now, this is not to say be scary. Self-love doesn't mean that you become scary in life. You know, because a lot of us have taken that solitude of trying to, when we went in to do the work, we became lonely. We became comfortable being lonely, and we didn't become alone. We didn't come comfortable being alone. And that's a different duality. And you know when you become comfortable being lonely because you don't like being around people. You try to make up the bullshit excuses. Oh, I'm an introvert. You ain't a fucking introvert. You're lonely and you're antisocial now. You feel me? You're lonely and you're fucking antisocial. You know, I've gotten so used to being alone. No, you've gotten comfortable being lonely, not alone. I'm speaking from experience on this point. Like I've been like I had to transition that shit into alone, because then I was like, yo, I remember when I used to go to clubs by myself and all that shit. Like, yo, how do you do that? What you mean? The fuck, bitch, I get dressed and I go to the motherfucking club and I two-step and shit, get my drink in and I do my thing. Like, the fuck you mean? How do I go somewhere alone? I realized, because you're trying to go lonely. I'm not. I'm not lonely when I go in this motherfucker. I'm gonna go in, have a good time, grind up on some ass, get some phone numbers, possibly bleed that night with something. Who knows? I don't know. But that was in a younger time in my life. I don't do that shit anymore. But the point of my life, the point that I'm saying is that when, you know, when you don't do that self-care, when you don't do that inner work, and you just try to have, like, you try to make the best out of situations, you know, you try to make the best out of situations, which then turns into you saying, okay, I have to accept being lonely. I have to accept my loneliness. I don't learn to become alone. I accept being lonely. Then you become the hermit, and you just stay in the crib all the motherfucking time, you know, binge watching you and shit. A whole bunch of other crazy shit. And then you never tap into the ability to get outside of that. You feel me? And then you just make excuses. I'm comfortable, but no, you've gotten comfortable being lonely, not alone. You know? And that's what the reality is. You know? But that comes from, like I said, that self-care, yo. Tap into that shit. From self-care emerges self-love. But from the real self-care, when you go in to do the motherfucking work, you need to eliminate the shit that brings detriment to you. Even if that's your own ass. Even if it's the shit, even if it's your own bullshit. Yeah, that's self-care too. Eliminating the shit that's calling you, that I can't even get the shit out. Look, that's motherfucking self-care too. When you alleviate the shit that's causing you detriment, and it's sometimes your own bullshit. And don't forget to take a moment to go get your exclusive merchandise from Just Scenes merch. At Just Scenes, each piece is specifically crafted with positive imagery and symbolism. From the titles and designs to the descriptions, each style gives you something to feel great about. With everything from hoodies and tees to coffee mugs and tote bags, we have something for the entire family. So be sure to get yours today. Find us on Instagram at Just Scenes merch and get your merchandise right now. Yeah, so I think I think we'll end on that note. Yeah, man, when it comes to self-care, right? It's a very, very beautiful thing on the other side once you complete it. But you know, beauty isn't beautiful. That's what people don't get. Like, beauty, the end result of beauty is beautiful. Beauty takes a transformative piece that has to go through a dark phase, some traumatic shit in order to become beautiful, because beauty is a matter of appreciation. It's not a matter of aesthetic. You feel me? It's a matter of appreciation. So your self-care, eliminating that detriment within yourself, alleviating yourself of the things that cause you detriment. You feel what I'm saying? Is where the self-care comes in. You know, transitioning yourself from being selfless, from being a selfless victim to being because a lot of times I hear it and I get it, but it's still victimization. A lot of selfless people, you know, end up becoming comfortable in the lonely state, because they're like, I just gave to this person and gave and nobody ever gives to me. Woe is me. But it's boundaries. You allowed it to happen. I'm not saying that it's right that a motherfucker did the shit, but the universe said, hey, look, bro, I need you to tighten up. Whatever point you're supposed to, I'll say this, whatever point you're supposed to be in your life, you're going to be tested repeatedly to see if you're going to stand firm in this shit. If you're a selfless motherfucker and you keep ending up with selfish people or takers or people that just do, you know, or even givers off the other side, when you just keep ending up with those people, it's because you are being sent to school to learn how to set up boundaries, and you keep failing. Okay? And that's what the problem is. It's not woe is me. It's not why is this happening to me. It's why won't start changing your narrative to your questions. This is something that helped me a lot with my inner work. You feel me? I stopped asking, why is this? Like why me? It's like, What is this showing me? You know, why am I being taken through this? No, what are you trying to teach me? It'll change your narrative because it'll start to give you the answer a lot quicker. You feel me? Because sometimes I always say this, the universe be assholder sometimes. You say, why is this happening to me? Because it's happening to you. Like that's literally going to be the answer. Because the shit's going to keep happening to you again. But when you start, what am I supposed to get out of this? You feel me? Then the layers start to become peeled back. And then you start to see shit like, I got you. I see what you did there. You feel me? You put me with this selfish motherfucker because I allow selfless shit to happen. I just do selfless shit. And then I complain about it. I don't put up the boundary. I don't stop the motherfucker from doing the shit. You feel me? And like I said, you could be a selfless taker. And you could be a selfless giver. Like people don't get caught up in the extreme of if I'm a giver, then it's takers that take from me. Takers, we get taken advantage of too. You feel me? We do. And then, you got to learn how to set up your boundary. But again, all of this shit starts from within. I get it. Like, this is a side tangent, but it kind of relates. When we look at our community trying to thrive and grow, we always like nation building. You can't build a nation without building the self. You build the self, you build the self, you build the relationship, you build the family, then you build the nation. We trying to skip steps. Like we just trying to build the nation and we have not built ourselves yet. You feel what I'm saying? And that comes in with the self-care. Because self-care comes from self-love, but it all starts. There's a very foundational piece in the discipline. That D word, that's the D a lot of motherfuckers don't want. Everybody talk about, everybody loves making puns and jokes about the D, but at the same time, that's a D that don't nobody want to, it's not funny to people. That's not one you can make a joke out of. When you tell motherfuckers, look, be disciplined. Oh man, I'm trying to live. YOLO, all of this shit. Like, all right, cool. Because when you can't be disciplined with yourself, you can't put boundaries around the shit that people are doing to you. It goes hand in hand. Like we think that, and that's why boundaries are so easy to extend. Something as simple as me working out every single day, disciplining myself, putting the boundaries around my own bullshit is just as powerful, if not more powerful, and can lead me into putting boundaries around other motherfucking shit. Like, I don't fuck with that. You feel me? But if you can't even consistently handle your own shit, the shit that you do within yourself is sporadic, guess what the fuck is going to happen with the people around you? The relationships around you are going to be just that same way because the self-love isn't there to correct the bullshit that is happening with you. And a lot of times that bullshit is going to leave us alone. But when we've internalized lonely as alone, we don't want that. We don't want to go through that shit. You feel me? We don't want to correct the fucked up parts about ourselves that can make us stop fucking with certain people. Certain relationships you have are because you haven't done the detrimental part of your self-care. Your inner work has not been resolved to where you have eliminated the shit that is bringing you detriment. And that's why some of these motherfucking relationships are still thriving in your life right now. Because you have not cut off the source that keeps them viable. And the source is all you. The discipline and the correction that you are willing to put in yourself. So it is what it is. You feel what I'm saying? And it ain't what it ain't. You feel what I mean? When you tap into like the universe, whoever, it's going to send you to yourself. It's going to send you to yourself. And how you emerge, whether you come out loving yourself or you come out tolerant. Truly loving yourself. You feel me? Like, that's why I say with love comes correction, but with tolerance, you accept the deficit. You feel me? With love, you're going to correct the shit that you lack, and you're going to bring that part in that you lack. But with tolerance, you're just going to accept that you lack and stay there. You feel what I'm saying? But it's all in how you internalize when you go and do your work. Am I lonely doing my work, or am I alone doing my inner work? Because that's going to give you the segue to make everything else plausible. Because then from the alone and the lonely, you're going to get selfish or selfless. From selfless or selfish, you're going to get, are you loving through correction? Or are you loving through tolerance? The choice is yours. It's what you want to do. You feel what I'm saying? But it's self-care. How to love on yourself. That's how you love on yourself. Loving on yourself ain't looking in the mirror, dancing and hugging all the motherfucking time. Sometimes you need to tell your ass to go do a fucking push-up. Shit, put the motherfucking chips down or something. Correct the detriment too. And stop. Oh, well, it's balance. It's about balance. It's not about balance, motherfucker. You're trying to justify it with balance because if you're continuing to do the fucked up shit and you never do any of the good shit, it's imbalance. So what are you really balancing? The thought of wanting to do the shit versus the reality? That's the balance? Oh, well, if I think about the good shit enough, but I do the bad shit enough, there's balance there. There is no fucking balance. And that keeps you from actually stepping into that realm of true self-love. You feel what I'm saying? And if you can't, and that's what it means to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, nobody else is going to love you, right? Because if you don't have the discipline to put the boundaries around your own self from the bullshit that you do, why the fuck would anybody else respect any of the boundaries that you put around to keep them from doing bullshit to you? God damn it, that was deep. And with that shit, I am going to end it on that one. Be sure to follow me on all my social media platforms. Instagram at _just_scene_ the Just Scene Podcast at the Just Scene Podcast. Just Scene's merch at Just Scene's merch. Be sure to follow the plant-based class if you're trying to go into the plant-based lifestyle at the 90-day vegan course. If you're trying to transition and you don't want to go through that route, you can also get the book, Hitting the Raw, Living the Raw Plant-Based Lifestyle for Life. It is not just about the raw plant-based lifestyle. It's as a whole. It was just a catchy name, so I fucked with it. Get my book, So Frail, The Reality of Black Male Masculinity, and So Frail to Toxic Femininity. What else? Also, if you're trying to learn how to invest and trade and get into day trading, things of that nature, be sure to check out my my Mastering the Market, a Comprehensive Guide to Forex Trading course. What else? And I do accept tips and donations. Everything's in the description of your podcast, and, you know, support the channel as well. I mean, I always say channel because I'm used to YouTube. Support the podcast as well. However you see fit. But yeah, this was, I know you see the title and you think it's going to go one way and it always goes the other way. You know, I had homegirls say I be snatching edges and shit. You know, my homeboys, they be like, bruh, like, I feel like you want to square up and shit. Nah, bruh, it ain't that. It's just like, I love y'all. And with love comes correction. The shit that I'm talking to everybody else, I'm talking to myself too. You feel what I'm saying? But it's like, I can't, again, this goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the shit. I can't tell you to go in and do the inner work without showing you how the fuck to do the inner work. This shit ain't pretty. This shit ain't cool. I can be the guru and shit and tell you, I can post a million posts all day long and just do the work. What's the work and how you do it? That's the real question. That's what everybody wants to know. Everybody don't want to go to the darkness. Everybody want to peel back the layers of shit and discipline their motherfucking selves. You feel me? Because it requires accountability. And that's something that a lot of people don't do. But that was, that was self-care, loving on you. Go love on yourself, yo. Go love on yourself. And with love comes correction. So don't just dwell on the things that are benefit and try to multiply those. No, go deal with the things that cause you detriment too. And really, really lock in and really, really focus on those. This isn't to say that I'm absolved from the shit, that I have this shit figured out. There's things that are still detrimental to me that I'm still facing now. For example, I smoke and I need to stop. That is a detrimental practice. You feel what I'm saying? That is a detrimental practice. And self-care, I have to discipline myself to get over that. You feel me? So don't believe the hype. A lot of times I'm gonna be a very transparent person. If I'm still dealing with shit because I'm human. You feel what I'm saying? But I know how to deal with it, and I know how to face it, and I know how to go through it. So when I have my spells and I have my backslides and shit, those are normal. You're gonna have those. You feel me? But the self-care and the self-work, all of that internal shit, that has to be done. But it has to be done not just from a point of trying to put the Band-Aid in, but trying to uproot the shit. And that comes in when you face the detrimental part of yourself. That comes in when you face the detrimental part of yourself. So I don't want to keep rambling. That's that. Be sure to enjoy yourself. enjoy your life. And from this point forward, when you do self-care, make it more than just taking a day off from work. Make it more that, like, when you take a day off from work, figure out why you didn't have the stamina to stay at work. That's self-care. You feel me? When you start to get the massages and, you see I got tension in my shoulders, talk to the massage therapist about what can contribute to tension in your shoulders, and then figure out why the fuck you keep getting tension in your shoulders. Figure out how to absorb that shit. That's all self-care too. You feel me? Embracing the benefit, but alleviating the detriment, removing the detriment from your life. And then that transitions you into your self-love, puts you out to expand. You feel me? So as always, you already know, go kiss your babies, make sure they eat some vegetables, and go love somebody and love your family, and enjoy life, live, love, laugh, and all of that good shit. Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. I'm out.